Back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, we are back. It is the unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com, where Carrie's learning how to operate equipment. Welcome. It's been a great week. Glad to have you guys back, and I say great week because we launched our T-shirt merch line, and it went quite well. I just want to say how much I appreciate everybody. Soonerscoopstore.com. I spent all day yesterday. Ryan could attest to this, just sitting in a room and shipping out things. And we're also going to have Ryan on the podcast because Josh is. We all
fired him. He's gone. He's dead.
When Josh's daughter has a birthday, it's like a week-long adventure.
Well, it's better than like when they get older. It'll be a month-long thing. I think Bob will go through that with Pearl.
It's
a birthday month. They don't celebrate birthdays anymore.
Josh is setting a very good example for Bob. Like, it's just, I mean, basically, no man will ever be good enough for Josh's daughters the way he treats them, or woman in this day and age. So he's just digging his own grave as far as I'm concerned. So anyway,
he will be calling in, though.
Josh is going to call in and update us on recruiting, but he knew that people didn't want to hear him on a telephone while he's at the, I would say beach. He's at a river park in San Antonio, Texas, which sounds awful. So no, look, I want to say how much I appreciate all you guys out there that bought some of our new merch. As I said, I think I said like 120 orders I sat there and packaged up yesterday, and even more to come today. I'm about to run out of supplies. I got to reorder pretty much everything, but that's a good problem to have. So, I mean, shipped them out to North Carolina, Florida.
Where is the furthest we've gone?
Hawaii.
Yes.
Hawaii.
All right.
Someone bought a black Imperial visor in Hawaii.
Thank you to the Gabriel family for the support.
I guess we are. Like, we got to think about that.
We're the official supporters of Hawaii. And all the slander that I've ever thrown out there against Hawai is no longer, we got to delete that from the internet. I've always said that I have no interest in going to Hawaii.
Yeah, you're going to have to timestamp the podcasts and tell me.
There could be a lot.
There could be a lot. I'll just let you get canceled.
There could be a lot.
But we have a lot of new stuff in the merch store, Soonerscoop.com, Soonerscoopstore.com. We are currently collaborating on the Eddie collection.
There's more to come. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the first one that we're releasing. I think that's going to be a hit.
Ryan and I are coming up with your launch release promotions right now.
Just soon.
And no, Ryan King joins us for the first time as a member of the crew. I mean, he was last week. I will give you the opportunity to just tell people how horrible I've been to you the last week and a half. I basically just make him sit in a room and watch videos.
Well, first of all, I feel very honored to be the go-to whenever Josh can't be here. The obligatory, we need a fourth person. Let's just throw Ryan in there. So
it depends on how much you talk about Jesus this week.
That's right, it does. No, Carrie's been awful. I come in here, he throws me into a chair, and then keeps my eyelids peeled open while I have to watch Logan Paul.
At least they don't shackle you anymore.
Yeah, that was only the first couple days, but I have a little more freedom this week. I am allowed to go to the bathroom middle of the day. It's been good.
You still have to ask permission.
Yes.
He comes in and goes out a lot. I'm going to say this right now. It's kind of borderline annoying because we have the little dinger. Ding. So I have to see, is that the mail person? Is that a delivery?
And 99% of the time, it's just me.
I assume you're just chasing girls down Campus Corner.
Like,
that or he has a severe cocaine addiction, which that would be kind of interesting, and that should be open to the table.
That'd be a twist.
I have a mirror. Let's start.
Oh, God. Don't enable him. So, Eddie I'm talking about. We don't know. Ryan might be a scumbag.
I think you're enabling me.
So, no, but I think people ask me this question a lot, like after you were on the pod last week, like, what's he going to do? And you are a TV guy. We brought you in here because you had that experience, and we are building broadcast, production studios. Got a very exciting delivery in today that Brian and I both can't wait to get this podcast over with so we can go mess with it. But essentially, you are going to help build our new media kind of just what we do. And I mean, I know Eddie's going to want to be a part of it. And
Say that like the bad thing or something.
Maybe not. I might just retire.
I think what I'm saying is we're not going to be able to keep Eddie from being a part of it. He's going to interject. He's probably going to be running it, by the time, I don't know, 6 months from now. But he's going to have everyone as his cameraman, basically, is my fear.
That's my dream right there.
I was about to say that I don't think when you say we're building, I feel like I'm here very much to assist you guys. I'm here to assist you. Anything Bob might hypothetically need, Eddie, if I have to be his cameraman, come with ideas for all of a sudden. I'm totally down with that. I don't think it's like we're building. I think I am like a foot soldier in the vision you guys have. That's the way I look at it.
Would we make any money if we just followed Bob around? That's what I want to know.
Absolutely.
Can we turn Bob into a YouTuber? Can
Yes.
we turn him into the next Jake and Logan
He's
Paul?
extremely interesting. I feel like Eddie's got a lot going on, but we know what he's got going on. We have no idea what Bob has going on.
Just let the cameras run wild throughout the Prisbillo household throughout
Yes.
football season.
Bob is
It's like a reality show. It can be a
you
reality
go.
show.
Bob is actually he's wearing a shirt that would play very well on video today. He's got
I don't even know what it says.
Do you know what that?
Copy.
It's copy Control plus C and then V paste. So
And that's
Do you have
Pearl's
a-
shirt.
Pearl has a paste shirt.
Because she's my mini-me.
Wow, that's awesome.
It was a Father's Day present last year.
That's really cool.
Copy and paste.
Damn.
Brittany did really well.
As the new merch king, I'm very impressed by that. So, anyway, no, but, Ryan and I are kind of working. Like, I told him, I kind of gave him this little speech yesterday. Like, everything that we do around here is kind of trial and error. Like, the roles that we all have molded over time. Like, they've changed, they've shifted, and that's kind of, we're always pretty loose in terms of if this is working, let's do that. And if this is stale or whatever, I say that, but the tenant that our site is built on is Scoop, so that hasn't changed in like 20 years. But no, I mean, this is a different era. We started it with the Isaiah Thomas show last night that did really well. We want to continue doing things like that, but also fun things, entertaining things, things that kind of show off people's personalities of the site, and people that might be a part of things, in the future, and that's to come. But just like the merch stuff, I'm kind of insane, and I know this. Like, I tell these guys things, and they're like, "Yeah, I don't get that at all," and like I have to do it to show them before it really. And I know it's the same way on the board. It's like, when we didn't do the pod that one week, everybody's like, "Why are you wasting your time on these studios? You can't even get a pod out." Like, it's just that there's a bigger picture at play, and Ryan's a big part of that. So, outside of that, we are going to get to sports, and obviously the SEC media day is going on right now. We're past the Big 12. ACC. I saw Dabo Swinney on TV tonight. More realignment stuff is out there. I don't know. Did you guys look at that link I sent you yesterday? That front office sports about Notre Dame.
Yeah, that kind of broke on Monday.
Was that on Monday?
Yeah, I think that was during T-shirt madness when we were
When I was in a bunker.
Yeah, everything was getting put up and put out there, but at the very least, interesting with Notre Dame saying they only want the $75 million, or they'd be happy with the $75 million. What does that do for the Big 12 as far as opening their pathway to maybe get onto NBC? Is that going to open the door for the scheduling
It was just
alliance
interesting
or
to
whatever?
me that you have NBC and they are one. I mean, it may not be where you end up, but at the same time, that gets you in the game. If other conferences, if other TV networks know, NBC is looking at the Big 12, maybe. And I've said this all along. I think the perfect thing I don't know why we concern ourselves so much with the Big 12. We really don't have a horse in this race anymore.
But it does kind of loosely connect Oklahoma just because, I think what the Big 12 and what happens with them, I think that's going to be meaningful and how that accelerates OU and Texas's exit to the SEC, will it not?
No, it absolutely does. Like, if ESPN came in and put together a package for the Big 12 and added, and you were able to get some Pac-12 teams to defect and join the Big 12 in lieu of this TV package, then yes, I think that helps Texas and OU. If they put together a multi-billion-dollar, $100 million deal with NBC, Peacock, whatever, or they use that to get a better deal with Amazon or ESPN Plus or whatever, then I think it helps OU and Texas. And there was an interesting article too that came out earlier this week that ESPN and Disney had sold like more preseason ad inventory than they've ever done before, like $9 billion. So now they have to find, stuff to show to run it. And live sports is what really is driving that revenue. All right. I don't know what I was saying. I'm sorry. We had a little interruption there. We've had some office snafu. We got a leak in the building a second time.
Not our fault.
What, the snafu?
Yeah.
Or that we stopped
We don't
the
have any
podcast?
control over that. The snafu.
Yeah.
The leak.
I'm just saying that we've
I think
got,
it's OU
we've got
Club's
shit
fault.
going on. So
I think it's upstairs neighbor's fault. He started maybe like,
not taking such a big dumps.
or I don't know if that's the problem, because the bathroom's on the ground floor, so I don't know. I think it's somebody up there though.
You think they're sabotaging? They heard about all the merch sales.
Very well could
and
be.
so they're trying to
Very
sabotage
well could
us.
be. I could see that. I could see that with that.
I didn't know we were starting a rivalry with the Sooner Club.
No, they're the good people. We're keeping them on good terms until then.
So, but I mean, Big 12, good for OU in Texas if they find a place.
Sure.
But better for OU in Texas to leave for the SEC, which I don't know about you guys. I don't want to spend 4 days in Atlanta. 4 days is too many.
We'd still just spend the one.
Yeah.
Go OU, and that's it.
Yeah.
We don't have to act.
I mean,
like
if we're
we
going
care
to
about the other
Atlanta,
ones.
I want to spend the 4 days. I want to be
You want lemon
so
wing
much
chickens?
I just want to be a
Chicken
part
wings.
of those people.
Those
I want
fans.
I want to be a part of the culture that we are about to embark with.
Well, that might be a part of the YouTube channel. Maybe we could
That's
send
right.
Ryan out there and you could be an Alabama fan for a
I
day.
rate the fans in the backgrounds at SEC Media Day on a scale of would that person kill somebody? Would they slit somebody's throat
For a Nick Saban
for
autograph?
No, just for a national championship. And if they would, I would.
You're in the right spot.
I like those people.
I think you
I
have
like
to go
the culture.
to the Tennessee fan day for that to find those people.
I mean,
right now.
I think that there's a good chance that those fans are in every fan base amongst the SEC. I don't think these people.
I'm just saying
I don't
the
think
Tennessee
I don't think
fans
people are just completely ready for the idea of what the SEC
no
is bringing.
the Tennessee. I'm just saying Tennessee fans are more bloodthirsty.
Well, that's
Alabama's won
probably
a lot of
fair.
championships.
That's probably fair.
Georgia
Alabama
just
fans
won
probably
one.
wouldn't do it just because they don't want to. It'd be a little bit beneath them.
They're also expanding it to 6 days. Once they move up to 16 teams, it'll be 2 to 3 teams a day. They're going to end
A
up
whole
taking over a
damn
whole
week.
week. Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe 10. Maybe they'll do like 1 to 2 teams.
They
a
should
day.
do one day, one game, one day for each team. Go 16 days.
No, I'm not paying for that. I'm just telling you right now.
Why?
Vanderbilt
not?
Day. Can't miss that.
I mean, if you and Ryan are the kings of monetization on YouTube, you got a shot. So you have
It's up to you.
25 to prove yourselves that you deserve 6 days in Atlanta for SEC Media Days. So
I'll just kill somebody on the first day. How about that?
That'll get some views.
that'll
I will
solve
say.
my travel expense problem.
There you go. I could stay at the Atlanta jail. It's probably safer than Oklahoma City's jail by any means.
You might be right.
I am right about that. Guaranteed.
So anyway, you come off of Big 12 Media Days. Bob, you did a great job with articles. They're all over the place right now. And I think, Dylan Gabriel, obviously the centerpiece. A lot of Dylan Gabriel talk on national college football shows the last couple of days that I've been watching. And I mean, this is where we are. I mean, it is going into a season. Dylan Gabriel, the only real question is he's making the bonding with the teammates. I mean, first off, you wrote about, their retreat out to the Lawton area near the Wichita Falls Mountains and, just being out there together. And then he did I saw all the pictures floating around yesterday from the offensive line retreat. But, I mean, it seems like he's doing everything that he needs to do to kind of win over his teammates.
Exactly. And I mean, it's something that we mentioned in the winter and the spring is how he's embraced this role. And it's just gone to another level throughout the course of the summer. And now we'll just see, does that mean anything when you actually get onto the field? Being interconnected, being all that chemistry, camaraderie, is it going to translate into a better on-field performance? And that's what we're going to find out. But you hear it from like Marvin Mims, even though he's not the oldest guy in the locker room, but when you hear him say, no, that's a Dylan thing. That's not a quarterback thing. That's just who he is. And we've really grown to appreciate it. Hear Woody Washington say, yeah, it's taking me, Justin Broyles, Key Lawrence out to dinner to get to know us better. And it feels different. It feels like this is the type of guy that Brent Venables would have wanted to bring in anyway. and he lucked out into being able to do just that.
It's kind of similar to, and it reminds me a little bit of what Baker did, but behind the scenes. Now we're seeing it out in the front as far as ingratiating himself to the team, his new teammates. And I guess he's had to do it because he's had to step into this so quickly. But I don't remember anybody like, and it might be unfair to compare like the quarterbacks that came in before him, but I don't remember guys really kind of taking the leadership role by the horns like he has through the things that he's done. And it's like, it's almost, I don't think it's fake in any way. Like he definitely believes in what he's doing, but at the same time, it's just been fascinating to see like how quickly he won those guys over, whether it be just in the first couple of weeks of spring or even to now and putting together what you wrote about with the dime time retreat or taking his offensive linemen. I can't remember a quarterback here over the last couple of years like just having such a close relationship. I don't know if that's the right way to say it with his offensive linemen.
We would hear about Kyler in T Cafe.
Sure,
he would do that a bunch.
Sure.
Yep.
But before that, it was really like Sam Bradford was the last person you really heard about on a regular basis taking his lineman. I'm sure it was happening. I'm sure Baker was doing it. But like the first time I remember ever hearing about that was like with Jason White back in the day. And like he was taking his linemen out to eat every week. And I think they were going to like Golden Corral and stuff, like just all you can eat places. They would just go in and destroy buffets. So
yeah, but when you look at Dylan, it's just the way he has embraced it. Like where it's like, oh, can he handle it? He's coming after Baker, after Kyler, after Jalen Hurts. Can he handle it? It's like he wants to. He wants to be that guy. He's not shying away from any little thing that's being asked that he has to do in this position.
I'm wondering, like, is the one thing that I mean, it was going to be a thing. I don't think we wrote a single thing on it, and I didn't ask anybody to write a single thing on it, but like the constant talk and questions about NIL is just like, to me, I'm kind of over it. Like, it's happening. I don't need to know if a coach likes it or doesn't like it.
What are we continuing to ask about?
I know.
Like,
it's a thing, right?
Like, what is it's almost a little bit like the conference realignment stuff. Like, I don't need an update. I thought it was really funny coming out of the SEC media today. Like, and I hate to pick on like local news, but like one of the stories on the local news over the last couple of nights was OU, and like after Greg Sankey talked, it was like OU and Texas don't expect to go to the SEC until 2025. It's like, what is the update there? Like, what did you think? Greg Sankey, was Greg Sankey going to stand up on the podium and be like, "Oh, by the way,
we're going to stick our foot in our mouths and say something that we shouldn't say to put OU and Texas in a negative position with the conference they're in right now."
I'm almost at like wit's end just as far as like the daily updates, and NBA free agency is kind of like this as well. Like
getting to that point,
3 or 4 things or stories are thrown out there every morning.
Nothing's changed.
Community.
Yeah.
It's like, so what did I just read? I basically read that there's an update for nothing. This is just what this writer envisions could happen.
They just get a different former NBA player to come on and talk about how, Kyrie Irving would.
Right.
I've heard that Kyrie wants this or that, and Kevin Durant. If that happens, then this could happen.
It brings me close.
It's a never-ending parade of scenarios.
It makes me want domestic terrorism to happen when somebody asks like, "Would a championship or what does Ja Morant need for his legacy?" Like, I don't give a f***.
I will say I asked an NIL question, but it was a dud, and I moved on. I asked Marvin Mims, did he learn anything through his T-shirt? The T-shirt he had with his foot being inbounds, and he brushed it off, and so I brushed it off and just kept going.
I would have liked to know his answer to that.
We're definitely...
It was like nothing at all, basically.
Must not have done well. I don't know. From my experience, it's not like fans aren't just clamoring to buy player T-shirts, especially if it doesn't say OU on it. I mean,
you had Graham's interception and then Mims' catch, and then obviously we saw nothing else rest of the season. But
like Theo Weiss had a big thing, but then he got hurt. Like he had a massive merch site and stuff. We all know Spencer Rattler.
Ethan Downs has got a massive one.
He's got people working for him. Yeah,
Terminator shirt. That's not bad.
Did you get some? Did you get 7 of them? Did you get 7 of them?
What if What if we start having some media members wearing the players' shirts to interviews this year?
What do you mean, what if?
just
It's not a matter of what if, it's a matter of when.
Who's the biggest suck up? Yeah. It's like, okay, someone's going to take it past the just wearing Jordan stuff, like to full on, I'm wearing your T-shirt and asking you questions. Like I will immediately call Ryan and say, get your ass down here. We need 2 cameras on this shit.
It's a matter of when, not if. I could see that happening.
Oh my God. So that train of thought just totally took me off the tracks. Let me tell you this. Josh McCuistion's going to be joining us here shortly, and he's definitely not at Great Wolf Lodge because that's in Grapevine. It's at some water park in San Antonio because his daughter's having a birthday. He told us he took all his stuff, but then he forgot something.
Whoopsies.
Like the plug-in for it. So I can't make a network work, but that son of a bitch can't even take a cord. All right? I want to hear anything more from him forever now. That's done. So, okay, outside of that, I mean, I know we've talked a lot about this, and Eddie, you kind of sent this to the group the other day, but still, that national
It's still there.
narrative
It hasn't gone
of,
away.
Like, OU's rebuilding, like OU is in trouble. OU is, how many games can OU win? Can they win 7? Like,
Can they go 4 and 5 in the Big 12?
It was from the Fox graphic
was
yesterday.
John Blake just here last year? Was Howard Schnellenberger just here last year? Like,
I truly don't. I can't wrap my head
And
around
Eddie
it. And
and
like I had to ask you guys about
Yeah.
this. Is like, am I just being a huge homer or
I told you, if you are, I'm in the same cult as you are in right now.
Well, you are in the same cult as me.
Yeah.
And that reminds me, I need to talk to you about the cross situation that we ran into. But I don't get like, and I guess I do get like, I try to always separate myself from like the bubble that we live in and look at it from the outside in. And, Bob, you brought it up this morning. It's like, if I was looking at a different program and I saw, a coach that by all means was successful leaving, you're losing a quarterback, you're losing a bunch of really good defensive linemen that got drafted. Like, I understand the thought process in it. But I also understand OU's been very, very successful over the last 20 years. They've been very successful over the last 50 years in college football for the, outside of those years in the 90s, obviously. But the quarterback situation, they replaced it like it's the best of both worlds. They replaced Caleb Williams with a guy that probably has the most experience out of anybody as far as new quarterback on campus anywhere. I mean, my God, the guy's thrown for 70 touchdowns, 8,000 yards in his career. He's working with a Jeff Lebby and an offensive coordinator that, like, that's the other thing. This coaching staff isn't new. Like, there's a bunch of guys that are here. Like, if you want to say, yeah, well, everybody has first-year problems, right? It's like, okay, that's fine. But at the same time, it's not like they're ushering in a bunch of new coaches either. Like, it's a bunch of coaches that have been around, that they're familiar with the program. I'm lost.
I think it's a lot of people that paid attention to the fact that Bob Stoops coached the bowl game. Like, Lincoln wasn't here for that. Like, it was a change. Like, we have a perspective that we've been out to practice. We've seen how different it is. Not that we got to see a lot of Lincoln Riley practices, but it was nothing like what we see with Brent Venables and his coaching. Like, it is as intense, even by OU Bob Stoops standards, it is more intense, especially defensively, than any practice I ever saw under Bob. Like, it's maniacal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
and it goes back to the Brent Venables thing that I said repeatedly, and I'm going to keep saying, is like, if he was the best assistant to not have a head coaching spot for the last 4 or 5 years, why is it that now that he has it, he's not ready for it, or the program isn't going to succeed when you've been touting him for years as the best guy to not be the guy yet? He's got it. He knows there might be little hiccups, but he's not all of a sudden going to fall flat on his face from going to defensive coordinator to head coach. I just don't see it.
It is interesting, too, that, you look at just the national, and Gary, we've talked about this. We talked about it on the pod just as far as like, and I'm not taking a shot at anybody, but it is telling just as far as like the way that the national media have covered this and not been around this day to day. Like a perfect example that you've talked about before is the athletic thing and not filling Jason Kersey's role, because I think in a way they feel like Oklahoma's about to drop off. Like it's not going to be worth covering to a certain extent. And I just find that fascinating when you look at a Notre Dame program in reverse and I think Marcus Freeman's going to be great. He's obviously recruited extremely well. But when you're comparing what Marcus Freeman's done as a coach to what Brent Venables has done as a coach, it's not even, is it even comparable? Truly.
I mean, it's different because the entire staff stayed, and it was only Brian Kelly that left.
Sure. Now, he took some people with him, didn't he, from like a behind the scenes type support staff type role. Yeah. But at the same time, when you look at what Oklahoma is, you look at the schedule, and the only reason that this discussion came up yesterday is because you looked at the tweet from Fox Sports, which is basically just turned into a clickbait farm of like how many games does Oklahoma win, and it's their schedule. Like I don't, unless I'm just a complete homer, I don't see where they would lose 5 games. Say they lose at Nebraska, and I think that's going to be the only true test, quote unquote, in the non-conference. Then you're talking about them losing 4 or 5 games in the non-conference.
Yeah, they got to lose like Kansas State, Texas, Baylor, Bedlam. Like they have to lose all of them.
They haven't lost 5 games in conference play since 1998. I mean, what are we doing here? What is this? Like even in, and I think, somebody like Ketch brought this up. It's like, when you wrote the Warm Term article, it's like everything with Oklahoma at that time, it's an even bigger indictment on the other programs within the conference that they weren't able to take advantage from 2011 to 2015. And OU didn't win it every year. Obviously, Baylor won it in 2014, but they still had success at an extreme level to where it's like, so even in these quote unquote down years, you weren't able to take advantage of it. And, I feel like the program right now is in much better shape than it was 11 years ago, back in 2011, by all means.
It's funny, too, because they look at Oklahoma like that, but then, I'm sitting there watching yesterday College Football Live, and they literally had it on the nose with, Lincoln Riley and Alex Grinch. They're like, well, yeah, Lincoln Riley's got this really good skill talent at USC that he's brought in, but he's got nobody on either side of the ball in the trenches. And Alex Grinch, kind of like we had that big revelation, Alex Grinch's defense was ranked somewhere in the 70s last year at Oklahoma. It wasn't very good. It's just, and he was losing so many players. They recruited well, but had not been developing across the board. So, now he's going to USC with a team that doesn't have all that on defense.
Yeah.
That does have some bright spots, I'm sure, but, if Latrell McCutcheon's the starter there, they're not very good.
Well, that whole thing too is, when you talk about where the money's coming in on, those are people in Vegas that are running out there and they're looking and they're so saying bizarre. It's one of those things. It's kind of like before majors and stuff when everybody wants to bet on Tiger. And as much as I love Tiger and as much as I talk myself into thinking that oh yeah, he's going to compete. It's the same deal. It's like he has a broken body right now. He can't go win a golf tournament. He hasn't. I think that those parallel with each other.
It's amazing that Lincoln has gotten that much hype and cachet just from taking over a program that was already as high as it had been in a long time.
Right.
He's coming off winning the Sugar Bowl.
And isn't that
2016?
Isn't that so fascinating too that he's caught all of this but we were around it and we know how contentious everything was around here back just even last year. And they still found a way to win 11 games.
Yeah.
But
they found a way to lose 2 games that one they played like crap in, and 2 they were killing the team at halftime.
It's amazing to me that you go back to that bye week and they're undefeated going into the Baylor game.
Yep.
That was
9-0.
And you mentioned losing 5 in a row. That's the first time anybody since Bob Stoops has taken over has lost 2 games in a row at OU.
And I guess in a way, it's also kind of one of those things. It's you do have to credit that staff for, in a way, keeping that thing together as well as they did, knowing how many, I guess we'll call them problems, were going on within the program at the time to even get to that point at 9-0. Now, the ball bounces a couple different ways there early in
remember,
September.
everybody-
6-3 or something.
Sure.
No one was happy with that 9-0.
No,
man.
and the rankings reflected it.
Yeah.
People were more angry at 9-0 than they might have been at 11-2 at the end
It
of
was
the
a
year.
shitty 9-0. I mean, it just
Right,
was.
right.
I mean, they had, we'd entered what week where they hadn't beaten a Division I team by more than one score until like Texas Tech or something.
And it was like it was like I don't want to get into old
Yeah,
stuff, but yeah,
let's drop
I
it.
mean,
But the national narrative for OU couldn't change last week because I was a little surprised no national people were there. That was very much a regional media days.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of
like
turned
the
into
biggest
that.
names were like Max Olson.
Yeah. And Max does a great job covering the Big 12.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he
he's
was
regional.
crappy. He was one of
He's
the biggest,
regional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's one of the biggest name guys.
Like
there,
I
yeah.
thought with the Big 12 being first, maybe they'd get a little kick up.
Sure.
Like some people would show
Sure.
up that normally won it. That was still like cast of characters that we all know.
Well, Stuart Mandel
Honest-
would have to leave his house for that to happen.
Honestly, I was glad not to see Dennis Dodds.
I mean, he's the only person that is he's irrelevant.
I don't know. I mean, what was the? Was it even? Did it even feel like a normal Big 12? Like, because was the Texas media contingent? I mean, just all over the place. Because I mean, I didn't really feel like
No, I mean,
it was the circus that it normally was. And we know a lot of people in TV at Texas that are no longer around.
It's
and
also
That's true, too.
It's
Yeah.
also different too for this a certain aspect of just like Oklahoma. It felt weird all week because of the obvious that's out there with all the realignment stuff and OU and Texas on the way out. But like I'm so used to OU going first.
Yep.
That like on the first day
Exactly.
that it just felt weird being there on the second day. It felt like I had missed something.
And with
almost.
OU and Texas going the same day, there's no carryover. No Texas
Sure.
asking OU stuff, no OU asking Texas stuff.
Yeah.
Because we had our own things that we needed to do.
It is getting closer and closer to the point, though. Even when, like, and I don't know, I think it's maybe just one of those things that's in the back of your brain. But like when I was coming back, like just driving around the next couple of days after Big 12 media days, and people are talking about college football, and you turn on the radio, and that's anything. Just that's all anybody wants to talk about it in a way. It does feel like okay, it's starting to be football season. It's
two
starting
weeks
to feel
from
like
tomorrow,
football season
from Thursday. Two weeks from Thursday.
And I think that like obviously talking season's coming to an end and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it is kind of interesting that just, I don't know, maybe just the narrative that's out there right now on the Oklahoma program as a whole. I think it's kind of funny. I think it's also pretty funny that like, you can listen to a national show and they talk about Lincoln Riley and the USC stuff. And then like any hint of an Oklahoma fan, like touching it or commenting on it, it's like, you son of a bitch, you need to get over it. It's like, whoa, like Oklahoma fans are never going to not comment on that.
Yeah.
That was the biggest news story in college football. It was the biggest story that, in a way had happened here in my lifetime for sure. Just like it's never not going to be a thing.
What is it like? There's somebody yelling at Gabe Eichert last night on Twitter because he still follows Lincoln Riley, like mad at him.
Yeah, I would still follow him too, but the son of a bitch
I
blocked
do.
me.
I still follow
Yep.
him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, how's that
He doesn't
going?
tweet. He doesn't do anything at it. Like he's not in the top 10
No,
coaches like that Sparks data that comes out now. He's not even
Twitter
close
screwed
to it.
him up. I
Yep.
mean, like
Mhm.
he's not. He does more Instagram stuff now than, and I still follow him on Instagram. Like, I guess people just take things. So I don't.
blocked me there yet.
I don't.
Sometimes I think about making comments, but I'm like, I don't want to do that just quite yet. I'm going to wait for the right time.
Yeah, use that bullet when it's really necessary. It's like a cyanide pill. Like, don't use it if you don't need to.
I'm just sit and wait. It'd be interesting if he hears this and then blocks me. If he blocks me, we'll know it's confirmed that he listens to the U40.
By the way, I speaking of the U40, I got a report today from Atlanta, and U40 is making waves with the SEC already.
Oh, beautiful. Well, hello to our new friends out there.
I heard from Michael over at Dead Soxy, and he went to Atlanta to kind of just make some inroads. And
Right?
Peter Burns wears Dead Soxy.
Oh, does he really?
Okay, there you go.
And so he ran into Peter introduced him to Marty Smith.
We're Twitter friends.
Yeah,
Peter
I mean,
Burns.
and I really have always, I won't say always, but since I met him when OU played
Clemson. Yep, bingo.
yeah, I became a
Same.
Marty Smith fan. Just the sweetest guy. And he and Ryan McGee have a podcast together, show together.
I met Ryan in Omaha.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so Michael was being introduced to everybody, including their producer. And the producer looked at Michael from Dead Soxy and said, "Hey, you advertise on one of my favorite podcasts." He's like, "Oh, we do?" He's like, "Yeah, the Unofficial 40.
Nice.
So the producer for, is it Marty and McGee?
Right.
He's a big Unofficial 40 fan. So shout out to you.
He's from Oklahoma.
Is he? Okay.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe he's a big Oklahoma fan because I actually just followed him on Twitter a couple days ago. I didn't realize that he was following me.
I'll check him out too.
Because I was telling Max, and Ryan was sitting next to him about. I actually had invited Max to do meth at the blue collar boardroom, and
one of your bits.
I was like, oh, there's Ryan. How are you? I'm Eddie, and so I invited him as well.
But we got to talk, and I was just hitting up guys saying, "Hey, we're doing the pod. What do you want us to hit on this week?"
That's right.
And so we got into that conversation. But want to remind you guys that you can get your custom sock swag on with Dead Soxy. I mean, they've worked with some huge brands out there: PepsiCo, Toyota, Dell, Children's Health, Hulu. Now you're going to need to order probably about 100 socks or so. But for your company, if you want to have socks that hold up, basically you value your reputation as a company. If you want to put your name on some swag for maybe advertisers, corporate partners, employees, whatever, go to deadsoxy.com and check out their custom socks options. Get a hold of them. And you need to start planning now for that stuff, because especially with the holidays and all kinds of things coming up, plan ahead. It's kind of like with our merch stuff. We have to plan ahead. It can't just come out overnight. So deadsoxy.com, deadsoxy.com. Go let them help you put together a great gift to give to people within your organization, outside your organization, that can really, up the... I mean, we can tell you right now, doing merch, having your own merch, people love it.
I don't wear the boardrooms very often, but I did to a wedding on Saturday night.
Oh, you did,
Just
yeah.
absolutely tore up the dance floor in them. It was a beautiful configuration.
By the way, if you just want to go get some Dead Soxy socks, it's still 25% off if you use that promo code SCOOP. It's almost August. Time to stock up on those game day socks. So go check out the Oklahoma collection and talk about collaborations. Believe Unofficial 40 and Dead Soxy are starting to
Beautiful.
make some plans for a collab. So not like an OU collab, but like a
like a U40 on some boardroom or something.
Yeah.
I'd wear the F out of those.
So
that would be awesome.
We'll keep talking about it. All right, Josh is going to be joining us here any minute. Well, what perfect time.
Wow. Could have worked out better.
Josh McQuistion, how are you, sir?
Guys, I'm great. How are you?
He's very drunk, you can tell.
I'm a couple beers in. We're not too aggressive right at the moment. So, do I sound okay? Because I am literally poolside at the moment.
No,
so.
You sound great. In fact, you sound better than you usually are.
Well, that's almost hurtful, Eddie.
I think I like my Josh with a couple drinks in him at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
I can tell you, Tiffany will confirm the same.
And
so I'm much more friendly.
Not as close to a port city.
It's just the only thing is we are in San Antonio, and I feel like I'm doing my part because they've got a real water problem here. So I'm just drinking all the liquor just to conserve for the locals. So it's I'm just trying to help out.
I was telling the guys earlier, you're setting a terrible precedent and example for Bob. He is going to you make him think that all his children's birthdays have to be like 5-day adventures now.
Believe me, this was not of my choosing. This is not how I would have done it. So I like a good one day. That's fine. We'll go crazy. You need a day to return from maybe you went somewhere fun, but. This is Gilligan's Island, man. This is a 3-hour tour that I did not prepare for. So
I'm telling you, this is a month. I mean, you're just preparing when they get teenagers and then into college. It's a month-long celebration. So this should be nothing new.
Oh, Lainey has been talking about, it's my birthday since July 1st.
That's right.
So
birthday month.
Birthday month.
We're well on our way to the MTV Sweet 16 show. It's all going to happen.
That's going to be awesome.
You're not like in too truthful of mood where we ask you about a recruit and you say, well, he's never coming to OU anyway. So
come on. You're not there yet?
I don't think so. I mean, like we can rate and rate. Wow, we can wait and record this in about 4 hours when the whiskey and the margaritas start flowing a little stronger.
Well, I
and
might
then,
prefer that.
Then we could really get into some trouble.
Peyton Bowen flipping. Come on now, tell me.
It's already done. They're getting every player in the top 10s. They're all coming to Oklahoma. Let's just get bold and brave here.
Clip that, and we'll just send that part out.
Social.
That'll be the social teaser for the week.
Cut that.
That will be it.
And then it'll just be a series of Josh like drunkenly reacting to that tweet. Like, you guys know I was drunk. Delete this now.
And we get double the content because then I have to go back with all my revisions and be like, I don't even remember saying that. Like, and I just get to walk it all back through a whole nother piece of content. So like it's just we win both ways.
One of the great rules in life, just admit nothing, deny everything. I think Old Rope made that famous.
All right, Josh. So you're enjoying life, but we wanted to hit you up and just find out the latest with recruiting, what's going on.
Sure.
Anything new on the trail out there that you wanted to kind of hit on this week?
It honestly has. I mean, it sounds very self-serving, but it's not the worst time for a trip. It's been a little quiet. This is kind of the dead week because next week you've got all the guys coming to campus, both with the camp on the 27th. And yes, that is ice being poured into a bucket near me. If you guys heard that at all.
Like that.
Yeah, again, it's a lot of people living their best lives right now.
I just spent a whole day in a closet yesterday. This is awesome, by the way. Just shipping stuff out.
And then on the 29th, I mean, you've got guys like Tassilia Kana, David Hicks. I mean, you've got a lot of the 2023 kind of premier targets that are still out there coming to campus. And then obviously the decision of Derek LeBlanc, with also the possible addition of Josiah Wagner. So this was kind of the dead week in the month of July. Like, again, I'm not saying I planned it this way. It just kind of fortuitously worked out for me. But this was going to be a little bit quiet. And then I think, again, next week you see some things pick up where, like I said, Josiah Wagner, there's a lot of buzz on that July 25th could be his day. I haven't gotten any of his people or Josiah himself to confirm that, but it's absolutely possible. Then you throw in, like I said, Derek LeBlanc on the 29th or 28th. I keep mixing those two up.
28th.
Yeah. And then again, for me, Jacoby Johnson's one of the interesting guys to watch. He's confirmed for me. I need to actually add him to our board visitor list. He's confirmed he will be there on the 29th at Oklahoma for this big weekend they're putting together. That would be an interesting time. Like, we really haven't had the guy commit on campus, but Jacoby's taken some officials. He went to Michigan. That was one of the ones he really wanted to see. I haven't heard anything that makes me think Oklahoma has dropped out of, the race for him or isn't clearly the top option. So we'll have to watch. But I mean, if you told me there was 3 commits next week, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
And that's something we've sort of said the last couple of weeks. We know these planned announcements, but there were certain guys where, okay, if they say they're going to announce so-and-so day, you should be feeling pretty good. I don't know if Lewis Carter was one of them, but that thing accelerated very quickly from thinking it was a top 3 or top 5 to, he's going to commit. And he's also going to pick the Sooners. Can sort of give us the background of how that all came together so quickly.
It's really interesting because, I mean, this time last week was the first time I was like, maybe I need to put in a forecast for Lewis Carter. Like, I started to think about it, but I didn't feel like I had enough. Like, I was like, people that maybe don't follow me on the board or, aren't subscribers yet. Again, shameless plug, get on that, fix that problem. But beyond that, if you follow, the various Twitter feeds that'll tweet out, when a forecast comes in or whatever, I really do try to be pretty deliberate about that. Like, I'm pretty confident if I go through with that. I don't like I just wanted to be ahead of the curve or I thought there was a chance here. I very rarely go, get too aggressive with it. But as time went on, it was just like, man, something's building here. Because talking to Auburn people, there was like, I think he's gone. It was like, whoa, okay, I didn't know it was that far down the road. And so as I talked to more people, and then I talked to Lewis after he tweeted out, I believe on, what was that, Thursday
night.
That he had something coming. And Lewis and I have talked since he was a sophomore. not to grandstand or pat myself on the back. I saw his tape as a sophomore and sent it to some folks around Norman, and that was kind of the first contact he had with OU, many moons ago. And so he and I have always had a good rapport and really talked a lot. And I just kind of hit him up. It's like, hey man, is this a top 3? Is this a commitment? Let me know what I need to be ready for. And he goes, oh, it's just a top 3. And I was like, okay, great, no problem. And then, I started hearing really reputable Florida guys like Andrew Ivins. I mean, a guy that I really respect in South Florida and, in Florida in general that knows the area. I thought, well, okay, if Andrew's saying something's happening Saturday, then I'm probably wrong on this. So I just kept checking around, and Lewis never would come back to me, but about that morning, that Saturday morning, I finally hit him up and was like, all right, man, we both know what's happening here. You and I are going to talk about what actually transpired after you announced this thing. You can let me know where I went wrong. And all he sent me was a little heart emoji on Twitter. Like, yeah, I got you. I kind of screwed you over. And it was like, okay, if a guy will at least acknowledge, hey man, it went wrong somewhere. Cool, fine, no big deal. I think he was really trying to build the moment and wasn't expecting so many people to be apprised of what was going on. And, that happens all the time, Bob. I mean, you know it as well as I do. Like, and Carrie, obviously, really all of us just covering recruiting for as long as we have. These guys don't realize until they get to these big moments how many people follow this. And this is their whole job. I mean, like, this is what we do. It's pretty hard to trick everybody. There's a few guys that pull it off, but it's pretty rare. And I think Lewis thought he could build the suspense and maybe surprise people. And then I think as time went on, he realized the word was just out.
Could you talk to just as far as the momentum goes on the defensive side of the ball? It feels like this Lewis Carter thing was a little bit different. It felt like the PJ Adebawore commitment was different. They're starting to build, and you've had some notes up on Oklahoma today on the board. I don't want to give it completely away, but maybe Oklahoma's making some moves for David Hicks, which would obviously be a massive win for this defensive staff. It feels like there's starting to be some real momentum, and again, I think that's so important given these guys haven't even played a down on the defensive side of the ball yet, as far as this staff putting together an actual defensive unit in the regular season.
Absolutely. And I think, we can talk a little about the DJ Hicks stuff, but I think with Hicks, and I said it in there, I can't really quantify what it is, but when I talk to people, it's just like, Oklahoma's real there. It's just kind of a, don't think this is lip service, or don't think this is just, something where he's trying to make it interesting with A&M. Like, he really is into what's happening at Oklahoma. And I think with what I said is this is kind of the time, and you guys can back me up on this, where you start, in history of OU recruiting, you start to see guys that have talked about OU a lot and nothing comes of it, and you're like, okay, the ties are being severed. Like, OU's going in a different direction, the kid's going in a different direction, maybe both, whatever it is. You knew, like, this is when the rubber really starts to meet the road. And I don't get somebody asked me this week, like, do you feel like OU slipping on Hicks? I'm like, I feel exactly the opposite. Like, it feels like I'm more confident than ever that Oklahoma is probably going to be the either or in a Texas A&M situation. Like, I kind of thought Oregon's made things interesting. I know he really likes Miami. I mean, there are other contenders, but I think that last night, whether it's the night before signing day or whenever he chooses to go with it, I think it's going to be OU and A&M he's sitting there talking about, and he keeps talking about Todd Bates as his best relationship. That's the coach he's most familiar with, the one he's most comfortable with. And, guys, we're starting to see, it's not lip service. Like, OU's starting to land these guys. You mentioned Lewis Carter is a guy that I wouldn't have given OU a chance with 3 months ago, and they just kept fighting and stayed in it and went and won. PJ Adebawore, I did it again, Adebawore, blaming that on the Dos Equis. There is absolutely some momentum that's happening. I think guys are starting to believe in what they're doing. And again, part of it is just, this is the plan. Like, this, you don't talk to anybody at OU that's surprised about what's happening. There's no feeling of that. It is, we thought this was going to happen. We didn't know exactly when, but we believed we had a shot with some of these guys. And even when Job went to Michigan State, it was, if we get PJ, it's fine. And they got the guy they wanted, and again, that's not a slight to by Job. They just have to make some choices. And I think Atabare and Akana and some of those other guys, that's where their focus has been for a while. So I do, Eddie. I think they're building momentum. One of the best examples, and I'll try to wrap up this really long answer, is Jordan Renaud, who came out and has basically said it's OU and Alabama. How long has it been since OU was in a battle for a defensive guy with Alabama, and they're in 2? And you really think they've got a chance with both of them, Vickers and Renaud. Now, they may miss on both. It's possible. But OU has a legitimate chance, and that hasn't happened in OU defensive recruiting in a decade or more.
Josh, the COVID sort of took away the opening, so we kind of lost that summer event where you get to see elite kids. But Future 50, that was a pretty nice weekend for OU. Caden Green, PJ, Jackson Arnold. You had the commitment of Carter there on site.
You got a lot of good David Stone social media back and forth on it.
David Stone saying Caden Green's the best offensive lineman he's ever gone against. Just another shot in the arm in terms of the evaluation and the way the coaches have gone about trying to build this class.
You're not kidding, Bob. I mean, and that's the thing. So the two primary events this summer have been the Elite 11 and have been the Future 50. Future 50, one of the talking points for everybody was PJ Atabare. I don't think there's any chance that Rivals does not have him in the top 100 in the next update. Like that, I think that's coming. I think that's abundantly clear from what we've watched. I mean, obviously On3 jumped him into their top 10 overall. I don't know if Rivals is going to go that far. I honestly, and I know people say, oh, well, they should. I haven't seen the guy in person. I want to see him in person, and people can, you guys know, and people that read the board know, I've been gung-ho on that kid since the day OU offered him. I love him on tape, but I want to see him in person. But boy, you watch some of the stuff he was doing where he's dipping under guys and that wingspan's incredible. Like when you watch him dip and he's got his arm underneath, it's impressive. I mean, like the physical tools just seem like they are all there. And then you add that in with some technicians like Brent Venables and Todd Bates and what we all expect from Miguel Chavis. I mean, there's just a lot to like there. And again, like we keep talking about it just feels like the momentum is building. And with the way this summer is going and what we kind of expect, guys, you could have the entirety of this staff focused on both 2024 and beyond, as well as 5 or 6 guys in the 2023 class are trying to close on, the Renauds, the Hicks, Vickers, whoever it may be as the season begins and then as they roll into the season itself. I mean, we like what this staff is doing, but you give them just like I said, 10 or 11 of them to go, double team some guys here and really try to close in on a finish. That feels like a recipe for some really good results.
It's a far cry from what this thing was a month ago. I know that, like everybody was saying, be patient, be patient, be patient. But even when you say be patient, you still want to see the results at the end. And yes. I think has it gone better than maybe you even thought it was going to go? And that's on top of the news as far as, winning the Elite 11, the MVP with Jackson. It just seems like it's a little bit more than what everybody even expected when you're saying be patient.
I couldn't agree more, Eddie. And I kind of hinted at it a second ago, and I didn't really come back around to it. But yeah, I mean, you throw in Jackson's performance to the Elite 11, Caden being really strong at Future 50, PJ Atabare being really strong, the David Stone stuff. No, I mean, again, some of it's not even guys that are committed. Peyton Bowen made a huge jump, and everybody's still talking about Oklahoma's very much in that race. So it feels like even peripherally, there's a lot of good news that's channeling Oklahoma's way right now. So there's absolutely a good feeling. And, you guys could weigh in on that. But even as I'm talking over the last couple months of, hey, it's going to be good. July is going to be good to you. Just relax. Let that come. There's still there's always that feeling in the back of my mind, like they're not going to get all these guys. They're not going to hit 1,000 on this. Surely somebody's going to, Dalen Smothers is going to decide, I don't want to get that far from home. I'm going to go to NC State. Or, Caden Green's going to fall in love with that Missouri official visit and he'll surprise everybody. Or Logan Howland really loves the O-line tradition at Iowa. I mean, there's all these possibilities that as we look now, you think, well, that didn't go against OU, so clearly that would never happen. But we've all seen it happen. We know it happens. So you just kind of thought, well, something's going to go wrong here. This is not going to work out this perfectly. But the commitments have all rolled the way OU wanted them to. And then you throw on top of that, like you said, all this subsidiary news, all this other stuff that really only helps Oklahoma build momentum currently and going forward.
Josh, this is the last one from me. I joked about Peyton Bowen, but why do you think this groundswell has come back to the forefront once again during the last 2-3 days?
What I think is really interesting is, you guys remember when I talked about some of the Jacoby Johnson buzz, and I people will message me and talk to me about, hey, what are you hearing on this guy committed or this guy that seems to be a lean to, OU? The problem is I'm getting a ton of that from Notre Dame guys, and I know a bunch of guys in that market. There's been several different rival sites through the years, and we stay in touch. And so I talk to a lot of different Notre Dame sites, and it's clear that Notre Dame does not have a lot of confidence. I mean, today, obviously, the Ben Minnick offer is really interesting. The guy that I had in my most recent predictions to go to Oklahoma, but for them to make that offer, they've got to feel like something's not going right at safety. And the obvious guy to look at is Peyton Bowen. I mean, that just makes all the sense in the world. And there are people out there that think A&M and Oklahoma are more likely than Notre Dame, like that it's going to come from those two rather than Notre Dame and A&M or Notre Dame and OU or whatever. So that's been really interesting. And I think maybe it's just because Peyton has finally, he laid pretty low this summer, and then he goes to the Future 50, has to do some interviews, and people always see the interviews or see the stories that are written and they think, okay, well, I know, man, there's background conversations going on. There's all sorts of other stuff that's happening. And it makes you realize, like, there's more to it than this. There's more that's going on. Again, I think A&M's making this a lot more interesting than it would have been. Because if you'd have said, 2 months ago, he's going to flip from Notre Dame, everyone would have just assumed it's Oklahoma. I don't think that assumption's valid anymore. But at the same time, as long as he flips away from Notre Dame, then Oklahoma's clearly in the race. I mean, the door opens again, officially, I guess you'd say. So what's going to be really interesting to me is if he makes it in next weekend. I know there's been a lot of rumors that he's going to come in the 29th. Talking to some sources as recently as late last week, he had not informed OU he was coming. Now, he's still in contact. All that stuff's still happening, so it could still very much happen, but it has not been confirmed to Oklahoma that he will be there.
We want to take time out for another one, and our only second great sponsor. We don't let a lot of people on here, but primeshrimp.com, PRIME shrimp.com. Go check them out. Davis has been on the board answering a lot of your questions. It is it's Wednesday. So a lot of you, what they do is let me step back, explain. Primeshrimp.com, they have all these signature sauces that they sell. They've sent them all to us. Josh and I have tried like the garlic herb butter and the French Quarter Alfredo. They're fantastic. Easy meals in under 10 minutes. You just take the pouch, the frozen pouch, you put it in boiling water for less than 10 minutes. You want to cook up like some linguine or Alfredo with it. Maybe you want to do some grits, whatever. Some nice vegetables. Maybe you got the air fryer. You want to go with some Brussels sprouts, little oil, little salt and pepper. Always good for me. But yeah, I mean, go check them out. Primeshrimp.com. Hundreds of orders were placed last week. And if you give the code Scoop. We have two advertisers, and I can never remember which code is which. I've got it right here. If you use the code Sooner Scoop, you will get 30% off your first order. So even though you missed out on the 50% off, They want to offer you guys that didn't get a chance to take advantage of that deal another great deal. So use the code SoonerScoop. You'll get 30% off your first order. You can get all 4. You can try the signature. You can try the Louisiana shrimp oil, the garlic herb and butter, Parmesan, or the French Quarter Alfredo that I mentioned, and also just get the unseasoned if you want to do it up yourself. So primeshrimp.com, a great sponsor of the pod. Don't forget, Davis is on the message boards on the Crimson Corner. If you have any questions, we've always got a Prime Shrimp thread going there for you guys to interact with those guys and ask any questions that you want. Size of shrimp, all that stuff, shipping times. If you have any problems with your order, they'll help you out. So primeship.com, go check them out. Great sponsor of the Unofficial 40.
Last couple for me, just as far as next week, and because it is going to be so interesting with the campus, kind of that final push before the start of the season. They have that camp coming up next Wednesday, a week from today, which is going to be
night.
Kind of interesting. That's something new. That's something that they haven't done. They've had those elite camps in past years, but specifically the night thing, it's going to be kind of intriguing to see who shows up and who participates in a way, and maybe not even participates, but just tries to get back to campus next week.
Absolutely. And I think it's very telling. Some of the guys that are already saying they're going to come, they want to work out. There's some good names in there. I mean, Rivals 100 guys with offers already that are just going to come and work out just because they want to. And I think that explains a lot of the value that Oklahoma puts on this stuff. Brent talks about that. Like, we want you to come. We want you to show how interested you are. We want you to be engaged. And I think they connect with certain players that just want to come to camp and compete and want to go and show, hey, I'm the best guy here for Oklahoma, that kind of stuff. They believe in all that. And so I think that is really interesting. And guys, this is a drum I've beat for years. I never understood why OU didn't do a camp that was like Friday Night Lights.
That's right.
Or something like that, where they had something a little different. And I think it's really interesting that and when they started in June, you thought, well, okay, I guess they're just going to do what they've always done. And then they threw this in, and you're like, that's a really interesting curveball, because there's not many schools that do it at this point in the summer. Because, I think there's always been this belief, well, kids aren't going to show up because they're getting ready for their seasons and their high school coaches won't want them there and that kind of stuff. And that doesn't seem to be the impression I'm getting. I mean, there's kids from Oklahoma coming. There's kids from IMG coming. I mean, it really is a good, strong collection already. So I think you're seeing Oklahoma both being innovative and at the same time pushing what they believe in. And like I said, I think it's going to be very cool, very interesting, and I'm anxious to see how it actually plays out.
From the banks of the Riverwalk, Josh, we appreciate you joining us this afternoon here on my show now. I've taken over this podcast. Me and Bob are the only people in the studio now. This is my podcast now. Real quick, before you came or joined us, we were talking about just the national perception, kind of what we were talking about in the war room. Do you have any lasting thoughts, concerns, criticisms as seemingly the end of the Oklahoma program is near?
I'm with all the people. I mean, I don't know how get to a 7-win record here with this daunting schedule that's in front of Oklahoma. The thing that drives me crazy is I think there's no nuance to it, because if you're talking about the Big 12 last year, okay, maybe I can get there, that it's maybe a rockier road for OU than we all think at the moment. This isn't last year's Big 12. Iowa State doesn't return 37 starters. Oklahoma State doesn't have their entire defense from the previous 3 years basically returning. There's all these questions. Baylor should be good, but they've got to change at quarterback. And they've got, there's other things happening in that program. There are questions just everywhere. There's nobody. And if you're going to tell me what school has A, the best talent, B, with the most stability, and I know it sounds crazy to say that with a coaching change, but almost Oklahoma's entire offensive staff returns. I don't know where people get this idea that OU is just going to fall off a cliff offensively. They still have one of the best offensive line coaches in the country. There's still Kel Gundy. There's still DeMarco Murray. You return a lot of players. You return so much depth and talent on your offensive line that I think is only going to grow under the current strength and conditioning program. I don't feel like anybody it's almost like Oklahoma's the only one that went through any turmoil this offseason. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, look around. Everybody lost everything. And, I thought it was interesting that it sounded like Mike Gundy at Big 12 was just like, yeah, we're going to play ball just like we did last year. I mean, cool, I guess. But you've got a different defensive coordinator, and your personnel is entirely different. And you're going to rely on Spencer Sanders taking care of the ball and great defense, with a defense that's largely unchallenged. Okay. Like, I mean, maybe I'll be wrong, but to me, that's a bigger question than OU with as good a talent as there is in the league being able to win 9 or 10 games.
It's almost amazing to me too. Like, just some people, if you're not inside the bubble, they've talked themselves into this idea that they just can't continue to be that good. They just can't continue to be that good. And when in reality, it's like, I mean, sure, they haven't had a whole lot of adversity yet. You don't know what's going to happen. Dylan Gabriel could go up to Lincoln and turn the ball over 3 times in the first half, and all of a sudden it's 17-0 at halftime. But the pieces that they've added, and specifically through the transfer portal, they've kind of answered a lot of questions that they have. Now, I don't know if Jeffrey Johnson's going to be the next Perrion Winfrey. Hell, we don't know what Perrion Winfrey really was, considering how he was used a year ago. But it does seem like all the questions that you can answer to those questions that come in from the outside media, it's just like, well, that answer is not good enough. They're just not going to be able to do it. And then the fallback is, well, it's Brent Venables' first year. They're going to have problems. And I think that you hit it right on the head, Josh. It's like the staff that they brought in, these aren't, outside of Miguel Chavis, who has never, quote unquote, coached a game in real life. And he has technically, because I guess he filled in for Clemson, but they aren't green. There's not a bunch of coaches down here that have never gone through this before. And I think in a way it kind of benefits Oklahoma that a lot of the guys that have come in are even more so familiar with the program, especially somebody like a Jeff Levy.
I really couldn't agree more. And I just think it's so interesting, like this narrative that Brent Venables, like he just has to slip or fall. Guys, I keep saying it. Since like 1945, Oklahoma's had one run in its history that would qualify as bad for any program in the country. And it was like 6 years. And other than that, they've just been at least, a rock bottom 8 or 9 win program. Like, that's been the baseline. At some point, it's like, guys, everything that you think you know about Texas is Oklahoma. Like, whatever you want to say, like, Texas is the recruiting base and all these things, like, okay, cool. I don't disagree that on paper it should all make sense. But everything that you tend to hear national pundits say about Texas, Oklahoma's the one that's done it. Like, they're the one that's been consistent. They've recruited at a high level for 60 years. They've won at a high level for 60 years. Like, just on and on and on. And it's just like, no, this is going to be the time when Oklahoma falls. Why? What in history? It's kind of one of those things. And me being the history guy that I am, like, those who ignore it are doomed to repeat it. Like, you ignore what OU has been for so long. Cool, man. Live at your own risk this is going to be different under a guy that's done nothing but win, 3 national titles as a defensive coordinator at different stops, and been around guys like Dabo and Bob and Bill Snyder in his career. That guy doesn't know what it is to fail. Like, you think he's going to be the one that lets it slip?
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. The good news is we don't have to talk about this for more than, a month left, because football will actually be played here in, I guess technically more than a month, but we'll at least get practice and we'll have to get out of it. Josh, we'll let you go. We appreciate it. Have a couple for me.
Josh, tell me, how many F-bombs did I miss?
Well, you should hear the things we said about you.
Well, Kerry, it's how you feel about it, because all the F-bombs were directed at you. So, like, I think, it's how thin-skinned you want to be.
I do have very good news. Over 110 orders have been shipped during this podcast. We had to
nice.
The postman.
All right.
Very nice. We made his day.
And he's a scooper, and he has a hat.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he has a hat, and he wants to come back and get the...
Was he wearing the hat right now?
No, he's wearing his Boston Red Sox hat right now.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if they let him wear that doing mail. It's probably too many questions to ask or to answer if you're wearing
Maybe
that
not in Norman, though, right?
Well, he's fascinated with the shirt, so he wants to come back and get a shirt
yeah.
Friday.
Awesome.
The shirt's a must. The shirt is, well, until they see the red on gray Eddie, I just think this is this. I think the shirt's the finest work we've done.
By the way, I do appreciate. Let me say this, Josh, while you're on. I appreciate you paying actual money for your shirts, and Eddie too. You both paid your own way, and because we have so many orders, and I want to get through this. You guys know how I operate. Like, I don't want to do any giveaways until we've at least gotten through one order. So I want to make as much money as possible because I'm a greedy son of a bitch. So
I don't know if everybody heard my 4-year-old declaring her need to go to the bathroom, but she needs to go to the bathroom.
She needs to go.
So.
All right, we'll let you go.
That sounds like a personal problem, Laney.
Bob's got to go too. It's dueling dads this afternoon. So
sounds good.
All right, Josh,
guys, enjoyed it.
See you, Josh.
Okay.
All right, later, fellas.
And Bob, we will let you cut loose, and Eddie and I can. Unless there's anything that you want to throw out there before you take off?
Just as far as the dead period ending, I know it's kind of a big weekend for Oklahoma basketball, welcoming players back onto campus, right?
Yeah, you got Peach Jam going on, so you're seeing a lot of OU targets playing out at the East Coast event, and then it's just about who can they bring in this last week. They're definitely trying to make it something special. They're bringing in a really big guy. I think he's going to lean toward Kentucky, so I'm not getting too excited. But Sebastian Mack, point guard from Vegas, that's the one I've circled. If they can get him in next weekend, I think things can come together very quickly, and you can add the second member to the 2023 class.
That's kind of a little bit of a deal like football, though. I mean, you're talking about OU and Alabama for football. If OU's getting in contention for somebody that has Kentucky in the same name, isn't that kind of one of those, okay, like things are starting to head in the right direction?
Yeah, it's like you lose this year, you accept that, but you build upon it to where then maybe next year you're not the bridesmaid. You are the one coming through. I absolutely agree with that, and I like what they've been able to do in terms of the backcourt and the wings. Now we'll see with the addition of Ryan Humphrey, how does he attack the post? What's going to be his style? Does he have any guys that he was targeting at Notre Dame that now come over as legitimate Sooner targets here in the months coming up?
All right, good stuff.
And they're headed out to Europe, right?
First week of August.
Okay,
so, yeah,
first week of August.
We'll
I was
see
thinking it was next week.
If we can get to a practice here in the next week or so.
I can hear the frustration in his voice when he says that. I won't say what he's doing right. Oh, I cut your mic up. Do you want to do that again?
Yes.
Okay. So Bob's getting out of here. Eddie and I got to talk some Major League Baseball draft before we get out of here today.
We can.
Because a lot, and not just that, but how this affects Oklahoma's roster heading into the season. But obviously, we start off with Cade Horton going number 7 to your Cubbies.
It was awesome. Yeah, and Bob's going to get some love on that, Bob, too, as well.
Your mic is still on. If you would just give a woohoo. He says no.
Give us a woohoo! Woohoo! Thank you. It was awesome. Like I don't in a million years never would have thought a month ago when he's stepping on the mound at Lubbock that he ended up was going to be the number 7 draft pick overall. I mean, my God.
We've talked about it a lot, but I mean, essentially he flew up the draft boards because of a 5 1/3 and a 6 1/3 or 5 2/3 and a 6 1/3, and then a World Series appearance, which was fantastic. I mean,
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think it was like 61 strikeouts and 31 innings or something over his last 5 starts, like just something.
And
51
very few walks.
Strikeouts. Yeah, no, it was 46-6. I think it was 46 or 64-6. I can't remember. It was unbelievable, and to do it at the level that he did. I mean, I think anybody that watched the College World Series was just like, holy shit, this guy was. As delivered. This is the guy that I remember talking to people back in the fall of his freshman year when this is even before Tommy John surgery, and they're like, he could be the best. Somebody told me that and I think I put it on the board at the time, is like, he could be the best freshman we've ever had. And then obviously he went through Tommy John surgery. You didn't really know exactly what it was going to be. It was kind of funny to see like what the reception was from, Cubs Twitter. As far as like this Cade Horton guy, and they look at his ERA and it's 4.89 or whatever, and they're like, why the hell did we draft this guy? Yeah, and I think you just got to look at
the interpreter. You're like the OU baseball interpreter for the Cubs.
I tried to be. I tried to tell my man David Kaplan is like, I promise this guy is really really good. Skip loves him, and I think that he's going to be on the same kind of track as some of the better pitchers that have been through here as far as, the John Grays, Cade Cavalli, obviously with the Nationals right now in that franchise. Cade Horton is going to be a really, really good pitcher someday.
Well, I mean, Horton's the headliner, but
Ricketts will probably trade him away, but that's neither here nor there.
Tell us a little bit about Bennett and Crooks, and I mean, and specifically, like, who was drafted where you're just like, well, that's not good for Skip. Like, he's probably not going to get him back. Robertson, I mean, I assume one of those guys.
The first, like, I think, and it's so weird how this worked, but like the first time that it was like the holy shit, like they got through day one, and it was like, you can live with all that. You got Cade Horton going in number 7 overall. You got Jake Bennett going 45 overall to the Nationals. Those were Peyton Graham going in the early second round to the Tigers.
Back, yeah.
It's like you knew that those guys were exiting the program. Jimmy Crooks going in the 4th round to the Cardinals. It's like that's a great fit. He was probably gone. I think he was in the top 225 on MLB Pipeline.
And didn't you say kind of going in, you thought 4th round?
Yeah, I think people thought 3rd or 4th round for Jimmy.
But I mean, saying if he win in those, he would definitely go ahead and take them.
Yeah, that's right. And then even like Blake Robertson on the first day, because they did 1 through 10 it was 1 through 1 and 2 on the first night, and then 3 through 10 on the second night, and 11 through 20. So by the second day, you get Blake Robertson going in the 7th round. I think that there was a lot of people that kind of wondered, even though his bat fell off in the last month of the season, he still had an incredible year. He's the newcomer of the year in the Big 12. Everybody, I think he had a much better season than anybody could have even possibly thought he was going to have when he was coming in from Cowley County. But then you get to the 3rd day, and that's where I think a lot of people go, oh shit, what happened? Because you thought David Sandlin was going to be back. As I understand it right now, David Sandlin's probably going to sign. And I don't even want to say probably. I think he is going to sign. At the end of the second day in the 10th round, Tanner Treadway, which is a great story, got drafted. I was so happy for him. He's out of eligibility. He's gone. Trevin Michael, same deal. He's gone. He's out of eligibility. He transferred in from Lamar, has a great year as Oklahoma's closer, joining Peyton Graham with the Tigers organization. His slot value, I think, was like 157 in the 10th round. I have been told that I think it wouldn't be crazy to say somebody like a David Sandlin had a pre-draft agreement with the Royals that he went in knowing, hey, they're going to take me on the 3rd day. It's going to be okay. They're going to overpay me. I think he got like $400,000. Like, and if that's exactly what it was, I mean, you would, in a way, almost kind of have to be stupid not to take it. And I think, he's obviously ready to start his professional career. Cale Davis is going to be interesting to see what he does. He's the Oklahoma State pitcher that entered the transfer portal that ended up, he was going to be in Oklahoma's bullpen next year from Westmore. He got drafted in the 16th round. Chaz Martinez got drafted in the 17th round by the Royals again. That's interesting. Like, he would be the perfect example of somebody that would, if you come back, you can improve your draft stock. Like, he would be in Oklahoma's weekend rotation. I just don't know what that number is going to be for him, what they have to meet. Jarrett Godman probably gone. Javier Ramos, it'd been rumored that he was in the transfer portal. I've never been able to confirm that. I don't know what he's going to do. He's another guy that, like, if he comes back, you got drafted in the 18th round, you go much higher if you have a better season, this upcoming year. And then that's where you get into the conversation of, like, how much can NIL help? Like, 4 of 8 guys that got drafted by out of the A&M lineup all have decided to come back to school. And I think it's pretty obvious why that's the case. They're going to make more money than they would from a professional team, coming back to College Station. So Brett Squires signed an undrafted free agent deal for $75,000 with the Royals, which is just like, again, I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. He was going to start. He was probably going to be the first baseman next year. I think that's like one of those, it's like, oh shit, like that's not good. So it's
and
good
I
and
asked you
bad.
this yesterday, like there's no chance Mark McGuire comes back or
Mason McGuire. Max McGuire.
Max McGuire, yeah.
Max McGuire in the transfer portal. I don't think that's the case. Him and the program have gone in separate directions. I think that's probably the best way to say it. Mason McGuire, his brother who had signed with Oklahoma, actually got out of his letter of intent and got drafted in the 8th round by the Cubs. And I think he's going to sign with the Cubs. So, it's kind of a good and bad thing. It's like the good, Oklahoma had the most players drafted out of anybody in the Major League Baseball draft. They had 11 guys.
It also sounds like we need to ban Kansas City from scouting Oklahoma.
They've done a really good job.
Team.
And I think that the Oklahoma State fans would probably say the same thing about the Angels. The Angels took 3 of their pitchers. I think who'd they take? They took Victor Medros, the kid from Cuba. They took 2 other guys. Bryce Osmond, who was in their starting rotation, and Roman Fansalker, the kid from Heritage Hall. So, OU obviously, it's a great thing that you get that many guys drafted. I think it's a sign that whatever Oklahoma is doing, it's for the second time in 3 years that their weekend rotation the entire thing's been drafted. But at the same time, the other side of it is you're going to have to hit the portal. You're going to have to be active in the portal. You're going to have to go after guys this quote unquote late in the process.
But you're going to be able to say,
but
look what our starting rotation did last year. They all got drafted.
Well, and hey, by the way, we went to the College World Series. Do you want to come join this program?
Yeah.
Like, we went to the championship series. That we also have a good core of Jackson Nicholas, Wallace Clark, John Spikerman, Kendall Pettis. A ton of guys are returning. Carter Campbell, Carson Atwood. Like, they have a good core of guys.
Yeah.
They just got to go piece it together. And, I guess in a way, it's much better to try to do this now than it is a couple years ago when you don't have the transfer portal, because the transfer portal in baseball is like, you think basketball was crazy. Transfer portal for baseball is nuts.
Yeah, I mean, you see stuff all the time, but it's like it's kind of basketball. Bob's not here, so I can say this. It's hard to follow basketball. It's impossible for me to follow baseball.
Yeah, you kind of just
because you don't know any of these people. Like, at least in the basketball portal, like, you remember that guy from the NCAA tournament, or you knew he was the leading scorer at this team that always goes to the NCAA tournament. Baseball, you don't have that.
Yeah, like the Garza Gangora kid that's coming in, they're extremely high on. I've been told they think he could be a star, and he might have to start at first base now as a true freshman. So, and then they do have like the Bryce Madron kid that's coming in from Cali County. He was the D2 player of the year, or not D2, but JUCO player of the year. He's supposed to have a big bat. It's going to be about how can he make that jump.
The only thing I'm disappointed in any of it is that we just didn't get to see more of Cade Horton.
Yeah, it sucks.
Like, we didn't get to see. We got to see a month of his greatness.
Yeah, it sucks. If he would have come back, he would have been like the premier college pitcher.
Yeah,
like
he would have been in Norman. It would have been a nice bell cow for Skip in the program.
Friday nights, it's like scheduled viewing. You want to go see what Cade Horton's going to do. So that sucks. But I think that, and we've talked about it before, but I think that Skip Johnson, like, kind of the way he thinks, it's like, and he would say this. I truly think that he would say this. This is you come to Oklahoma to put yourself in position to get drafted in that spot, and you just can't turn down number 7 overall, like, unless you're Kumar Rock.
You can't. You can't. There's no way.
You just don't turn it down.
No,
you don't turn down second round money. You don't, like, nowadays with the way that they slot money. Even David Sandlin going 11th round, you don't turn down that type of money. So it will be interesting to see kind of how they refigure this thing. They're in good spot just from the run that they went on. I think it would hurt a lot more if you didn't look up and go, oh yeah, they did have a hell of a run in Omaha.
I'm not going to go backwards because I don't know what you guys talked about with recruiting, but it is going to be interesting with the camp coming up.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit just as far as, I think that there was some worry as far as, is this camp going to be too close to the start of the season where you don't have guys that come in and participate? But I think that's going to be, like, we can't answer that right now.
But we've seen people like LSU have these camps, like, right before their camp start.
Sure. It'll be particularly interesting. I'm just glad that we're getting to the end of the, quote unquote talking season,
dead season,
where there's just nothing really to, not necessarily talk about. It's just like, you can't go prove it. You can't go show it. And I'm kind of to that point with, specifically with this thing. Like, there's only so much you can hear about, obviously I think everybody has loved Schmitty and having him back around the program. I got a text from somebody yesterday that said that they, it was like 3:30, and yesterday was like the day there was 111 around here. It's like 3:30 in the afternoon, and you could just hear the whistle, like from the Switzer Center, It's like, God, I just can't imagine having to go through that in this weather. But, that's the kind of stuff that, like, I truly believe, like...
They won't have a problem with a September, 100-degree game.
No, they shouldn't. And, I think that, like, those are the types of moments. And,
imagine USC traveling to Norman to play a game in September.
well, it's just like those are the
Vinny
moments
Wiley as
that
your
I
strength
feel like
coach.
that wasn't happening under Wiley. Like, those moments of, like...
Yeah, they
in the
probably
back of
would-
your
he probably
brain,
would have taken him to Topgolf today.
like,
or
am I
yesterday.
going to die? Like, and I'm not saying that they need to push him that far, but like, I do think that like that plays a role in the process of creating a team. I truly do.
I think you truly felt bad that you said that for a moment. Like,
well, I of course don't want anybody to die, but I do think that like those
no,
moments in the
that
back
was
of your mind,
Like, yeah, no, I mean, that's an accurate portrayal of
like I remember like
how far it can go.
No,
Like,
and
am I going to die?
sure. And I think that like, that's the type
Not
of
like I can't breathe, get an ambulance, I think I'm
That's right.
going to die.
That's right.
Yes.
Like those moments are, some of the mental processes that this program has been missing in a way. Like not
the
necessarily
breaking down and the building back up.
Sure. Like
Like
that
pushing people to their limits.
and maybe at the end of the day it can just be clarified as like that brotherhood that you create with your teammates when you're fighting for something. That's been missing in a way. I feel like.
I don't think there's any way that the majority of the team does not sit there right now and say, I really like this experience more than the experience the last couple of years.
Just look at the stuff that they were saying during the spring, and that was even before they went through the summer stuff with
Right.
Schmitty. Just as far as like, and Bob wrote about it just as far as like the dime time retreat and that kind of stuff, and that's all pretty during the month of July. Like, to be honest, I don't think that that's going to be the difference in winning football games
No.
come September or November or whenever, but it's just little things like that, and things that Marvin Mims said even. And I don't know if this was like I don't even know if like people caught on to it, but he was talking about his relationship with Dylan Gabriel and Dylan Gabriel's relationship with Jeff Levy. And he said something to the effect that, and this was during a breakout session, it was something to the effect of like, Coach Levy's going to tell him things and he's going to come tell us because he understands it. And it was almost like an insinuation that wasn't happening a year ago, that like things on the sidelines weren't being relayed.
like the quarterbacks didn't really understand what they were being asked to do,
Or that
how
it
to
just,
tell
like-
other people to do it.
Or it just wasn't happening. Like that
Yeah.
communication almost wasn't happening at all. And maybe that's something that I just like, I listen and then I listen to it again. It's like, maybe I'm just reading into something that's not there. But I do think that like just communication at a bare minimum should be better. So I'm kind of excited to see like how this thing comes together. And, defensively, I don't think anybody knows. I do think that they're going to be a better, fundamentally sound football team. And, that's one of those things, Kerry. I think even in the first quarter against UTEP, you're going to go, okay. Like I feel like this looks better.
Are you ready to be Ryan Sherpa and just show him around the practices and all that stuff?
Yeah, we
soon?
can do that. I'm going to put him on like one of those little child collars where you can't stray too far.
I don't think that I can condone that. Like the elephant backpack
Right. Oh, well,
where
then
you
maybe
hold
not.
onto the trunk.
Well, then maybe not. We won't do that.
Hey, you got to be thinking content all the time now. What can you do? And Ryan will be for. I'm telling you right now, we've had discussions. He is down for just about anything.
Yeah, we've
Except for
talked
devil
a
worship.
little bit about it. We've talked a little bit. I don't devil worship. I'm Catholic. Maybe I do devil worship. It's one of those things that I think that will come in time, and I'm excited to kind of get this thing going. It does feel like once we got through that, what I called was the first day of class at Big 12 Media Days, it feels like we're kind of starting that downhill ascent into what will be the college football season.
Yeah, I'm happy for everybody that's almost here. I'm scared shitless though because we have so much to do.
It's gonna work. It's gonna work.
Just keep buying hats and shirts.
Just keep buying hats and shirts, and specifically my merch, and we'll go from there. How about that? Something's gonna have to happen, right? Like,
What do you mean?
The off season's just been so quiet, and I don't mean like injuries or anything like that, but like the Texas A&M kid getting in trouble this morning, the Anus Smith. Is it Anus? It's not Anus, right? Inus? Anias? Anias? Anias Smith? Anias? I'm going to call him Anus. Anus Smith. I mean,
that shows
can
you
you imagine having to be...
I mean, to have someone representing your program that gets
so perfect,
like literal, like not just a traffic stop. Like this guy's.
I hope Jimbo just sells out tomorrow and says, well, he just had joined the Corps and he was just headed over to practice.
We told him he couldn't have a saber, so
yeah, like it was his turn to take care of Revelry. I was going to call her Lassie, and he forgot that he had got drunk. He who hasn't done that cast the first stone.
Nice to know that A&M players are buying Uzis with their NIL money.
That is a little worrisome that he had one in the chamber, as the kids say. That does worry me a little bit. I don't think College Station's that rough.
You think Trajan Bridges had one in the chamber?
I don't know. I did see that he put something up on Instagram the other day. He was back out running routes.
Yeah, he's been doing that.
Fingers crossed. I hope he gets back to
him.
it. I hope he gets back to it. Out of the three guys that got in trouble, that's the one that, and it might just because of Jack. I do hope that
yeah, I mean that's like Jack's the greatest dude, man. I mean and
I hope he gets a second chance somewhere. Like I don't know where that's going to be because I don't really know what the.
It'd have to be like an Idaho State or something like that.
I mean, I don't even know what the update is on that entire case.
Like is he free to go to a different state?
Yeah,
and things like that?
I don't know what the update is, but I would hope that at some point.
What is his terms of probation? I think that's called.
It was obviously a life-changing stupid mistake that's going to cost him for the rest of his life. But at some point, hopefully they get some type of reprieve. I don't know.
That's all I'm going to say on that. So.
Maybe that's just me trying to backtrack in case Parrish Cox does come to try to kill me. Or Parrish Cobb. It wouldn't be Parrish Cox.
Parrish Cox
was
played for OSU
player.
Yeah. There you go. All right. That is going to do it for this edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast. Looking forward to it. By the way, Ryan, not very talkative today. He'll work his way into it. But he's not writing articles for the site. So let's get that straight. It's all video stuff. It's fun stuff. It's entertaining stuff, hopefully. And that's stuff we're going to be working on up until... And we're going to have, the ability to send back video live and things like that. And if he and Eddie want to do stand-ups and things, like pretty much everything you can think of that you could do video, we're thinking of doing that. Plus, and I think Ryan wants to say something.
Honestly, any feedback from this is probably opening up a can of worms. But anything the fans want to see, I feel like would help.
You don't want to do that. You don't want to leave it up to them.
You make a major mistake every podcast.
Well, I'm not saying just anything you want, but if there was a legitimate thought, I was like, okay, because I feel like we're only going to come up with so many things.
Make sure that gets in his inbox, not mine or Gary's.
No, I don't want any part of this.
I take it back then. Don't give up any suggestions.
We barely let you talk, and you keep doing this.
I know.
All right, that will do it. But no, seriously, Ryan is not on the board. I'm not letting him near you guys until we break him in a little bit. But I mean, you've heard the last two podcasts. We can't put him on the board with the stuff that he says. He's just inviting. He's inviting the.
It'd be a 15-page thread, is what it would be.
Yes, culminating with the demand of you to rescind God and everything that you know. Probably.
No, there's might be some of those nice people. I don't know.
We have nice people on the site, but we also have a lot of bastards, and they're pretty funny. But it's a rough place. We got to figure out the right way to deflower you for the board.
The throwing somebody in, how they throw children in to pools, and that's how they're supposed to try to learn how to swim.
Your first thing is you do a weekly report on the craziness of the Crimson Corner, like a message board geniuses, but an internal thing.
Literally just my thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, if you see a post, I'm sure you're capable of grabbing screens and things like that, but we can turn those into your video report to start things out. And maybe it's just internal to me and Eddie first, and then we look it over and we say, that's really good, or that's not.
Might get pretty dark, but sure, I'd be down.
It'd be great, if you just ended everyone smoking, with a glass of Jameson in front of you.
Man,
it just the Crimson Corner broke your spirit.
But you can't do that in episode 1. Then that has to be something you build up to.
True.
It can't just be right off the bat. Then what do you build up to?
We'll start with cocaine then.
All right.
All right, that'll do it for the Unofficial 40 podcast.
What you want to do is to make crack. You're going to want to take the cocaine.
That'll do it for this edition of the Unofficial 40. Hopefully Ryan still wants to work here next week. We'll be back again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com.